So have you been thinking about doing a short-term rental here in California? Well, I've got the girl for you today on the channel, and I'm excited to introduce Erica. And not only is she just amazing with her short-term rental experience and knowledge that we're going to share with you today. People think it's an easy thing to do, but we're going to really lay out some good information. I think letting you know some pros and cons. If this is something that you can stomach, and and if it's going to make sense for you. And it's working for a lot of people, but also you need to get a lot of information about what you're going to be up against, and some perhaps some little tricks, some tips that will help you out. So here is my friend Erica. She is also with EXP, and this is a beautiful thing that we have. We can collaborate. We can bring you information from. It's not my strong suit, but I've got somebody here that is going to give you some awesome info. So here we are, and Erica, take it away.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Bernice, for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Yep.
So who am I? What do I do? I am Erica Santoyo. I'm a 30-year-old millennial living on the Central Coast. I'm originally from the Los Angeles area. I moved up here to the Central Coast about 8 years ago with my husband, and we got our start in real estate as investors first. So I am an agent with EXP, but I got my start with investing out of state, specifically in Alabama. And we were kind of like just looking for a way to not work 9 to 5. And we wanted to find a vehicle to kind of move us out of that and build a better life and build something just a little different than a 9 to 5 work style or lifestyle. And so we found real estate and we started there. And so we scaled really quickly. We started in 2019. We bought our first house for like $60,000 in the great state of Alabama. And we scaled that pretty quickly. So we actually own 29 properties between Alabama, California, and Tennessee. Kind of the trajectory there was we did long-term, like buy and hold in Alabama. We were making probably $300 to $400 a door after all of our expenses were paid, which is great, but you can't really retire off that. So it's not enough money. And that's when like COVID started hitting and Airbnb just like blew up. And so we kind of moved over into California for short-term rentals, specifically the Joshua Tree market. And we got started there and scaled quickly there too. So we own 3 properties out there and then manage 2 more. So we have a total of 5 properties out in Joshua Tree. And then we just closed on our most recent Airbnb in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is one that we own and operate ourselves. So we've got quite a collection of houses. And so I kind of think of myself as an investor friendly agent because I always have my investor brain on. It's always churning, and that helps me help other agents and my clients. But experienced Airbnb owner and superhost, licensed agent. I also own or co-own with my husband Freedom and Fortune, which is our short-term rental property management company. We serve all the Central Coast, all the way from Paso to now Ventura with new clients we've just taken on. And so we're a full service management company. So lots of iron in the fire, lots of irons in the fire all the time.
Yes. And so, I recently met Erica, and when I heard all of this from her young 8 years of age, it's like she's just got it. It's just what it shows you when you find something you love and you have a skill for it, how great it can become. And a lot of agents here on the Central Coast, now that we have her at EXP, are definitely reaching to her, and she's a wealth of knowledge. And so this is really exciting, and I think that she's really great at breaking things down for you. So I'm excited to share this with everybody. If you're thinking about this, I think this is going to give you some good guidance to see if this is going to be a good fit for you.
So this was this PowerPoint is a part of a presentation I just recently gave to agents in an EXP and also like other brokerages who have reached out. But what I went over is kind of an introduction into short-term rentals and short-term rental investing, what you want to look for The biggest thing is understanding short-term rental regulations,
Mm.
as well as how to find those investment opportunities and what makes a good deal. And then also what the benefit is to invest in short-term rentals. So how do they help you build wealth? If you're an agent, how can you use that knowledge to help your clients?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also shared what short-term rental investing and management has helped me accomplish. So that's what we're going to go over today. Very excited to keep the train rolling. Lots of information, but hopefully it
Okay.
won't be too much.
Okay, yeah, no, and we know we want to make this, we're on a platform where we can take our time and we want to educate everybody as much as we can. So we don't know who's watching this, whether you are another agent, whether you're a person from another state or within California, or you're a person working the 9 to 5, making good money and wanting to put it into something, you know. So we really want to give you a broad, detailed presentation to help you. And, all of our information, Erica's information will be there. If you reach out to me, we'll work together on whatever deal, or you can contact her directly specifically. So we just really want to help you get the information and get all of it as much as you can. So we'll definitely dive in. So we'll get going here.
Yes. Perfect. So the perfect place to start is what exactly are short-term rentals? So short-term rentals usually are a furnished living space of some sort. That can be a room or a whole house or a guest suite. And they're typically rented for short periods of time. So the most common we see is 7 days or less, but they can be 30 days or less as well. It just depends how long people stay, but that's typically where they fall in the majority. They're also known as vacation rentals or STRs for short. We love our acronyms, so that's very common.
Yes.
And popular platforms, obviously everybody knows Airbnb, Vrbo or VRBO has been kind of rising in the ranks, as well as booking.com. And then short-term rentals can, oh yeah, I mentioned that. They can either be the entire home, a private room, or like an attached, I guess, guest suite, but they can't be an ADU. In California, we have a law that you cannot short-term rental a detached, additional dwelling unit. So that kind of throws wrenches in people's plans. We can get into that more down the line, but that's something to note.
That is
And
very
then,
important because ADUs are so
yeah,
huge right now in California.
right.
So if you're thinking of doing that ADU, no, and I can make this other thing, then
Mhm.
that's important. So that's good information right there for sure.
Yeah, and another little like kind of sidebar on that is it's not impossible. So say you have a main house on a lot and then you have an ADU, you can still rent that main house out as long as you're the one living in the ADU or you have a long-term tenant in the ADU. So like there's other like options available to get creative with like your income source. So it's not like a no-go completely. You just kind of have to switch it around and you can't have like 30-day stays or less in the ADU.
Okay,
So
good to
people
know.
get creative with their options.
All right.
And then all of this depends on the city's local jurisdictions. And so it could either be the city jurisdiction or the county jurisdiction. It just depends on who kind of runs the ship on the STR rules. But we will get into that on the next slide or down the line because it's very
Okay.
important for sure.
Okay. All right. So go.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we will jump into the benefits of short-term rental investing. So, as an investor, as I mentioned earlier, I got started on the long-term rental side of things, which was typically in Alabama bringing in like $300 to $400 a door, which is great money if you're looking for like passive investing. It's where you buy a house, you get a property manager, you pay him 10%, you don't even think about anything else, and then you get a check, which is great. But short-term rentals, they bring in quite a bit more money. I mean, you're a little more active in the process unless you have a manager that does it for you, but they have the potential of bringing in significantly higher income. It's usually like 3 to 4 times the amount that a normal long-term rental would be bringing in. So that's a huge benefit. So the number one benefit is you really can maximize your cash flow with a short-term rental. You can also have an opportunity to deduct more items for tax purposes. So there's a lot like of common deductions are like cleaning, maintenance, insurance, management fees if you pay somebody to manage your property, and utilities, just to name a few. Obviously, I'm not a tax professional, but I'm just speaking on what has been my experience, and there's plenty of deductions to find to offset that income you'll be making. Flexibility is another huge one. You can choose how long you want your home on the market, available to rent out. You can choose when, how many days, weeks, months. If you want to block off a month because your family's coming into town, that's no issue. Like, you control all of that. You can rent it for as much or as little as you want. Obviously, the market will have some say in what homes are going for, but you can kind of control if you're just trying to make a quick buck, or if you're trying to maximize your income. There's flexibility there. And then you could also sell whenever you like. So you don't have to give tenants 30 or 60-day notices, which I know is huge for some of my clients I work with. They're like, I don't have time for this. I just want to, I have to sell now. I can't give a tenant notice. So that's been something I've come across a few times. And then number 4 is another big one too. It's a potential for passive income. So if you use a management company, which like one like mine, where we have a full service management company, you have the property, you give us all the information we need up front, and then we handle everything from guest communication to price optimization to handling cleaners, scheduling cleaners, repairs, things like that. And you're completely hands off. Now, if you don't use a management company, you're the one who's going to be doing all those things.
Right.
And I can just tell you from personal experience, it is a full-time job, because you have to attend people like you're running a business. It's not, you're a front-facing guest experience business. It's all about the guest. If the guest has a bad experience, you're not going to go far in Airbnb, just because if you get bad reviews, they're not going to, nobody's going to rent your home. And so there's different details, I think, that gets lost in translation as people are moving maybe from long-term rental to short-term rental, or they're more a traditional investor, or they're an agent who's not really like experienced in this realm yet. And so that's really important to know. But if you handle, I have a manager handle it for you like we do, then you don't have to worry about that, and you can just get your cash flow deposited.
Right. Like you have a second home, not a second home, but if you had an investment property in another state or something like that, you're going to have someone manage it for you.
Right.
Deal with the distant headache.
Exactly. For sure.
All right. Got it.
I think we went backwards a little bit.
Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Perfect. Okay. So short-term rental regulations. These are fun to navigate. They are like, basically, if you can't do a short-term rental legally in your area, it will be very difficult for you to get off the ground. So if your city or county does not allow for short-term rentals, that's basically like you can't move forward. I would not advise anybody to purchase a home without checking the regulations of their local jurisdiction first, because say, there's somewhere local, you're like, oh, this would be a great spot. It's down from the beach, or like, oh, my neighbor has a house that they want to sell, but I think they should rent it out. Whatever the case is, check your local regulations before anything, because I've heard so many horror stories on like Bigger Pockets or other investor sites where people are like back in the boom of Airbnb during the pandemic, and nobody checked. I mean, granted, they didn't exist as much back then. They've definitely gotten worse now, but they still existed back then. And then people would just buy it and like maybe do a couple fixes and end up flipping it. So local laws are huge. The first deterrent, whether you can operate a short-term rental, are your local laws and regulations. And they do vary by city. So here in SLO County itself have their own rules. SLO City itself has its own rules. Then you have like Grover, Avila, Paso, like all of those places have their own regulations. So you got to definitely check on that. The same with,
and they change all the time. Pismo just
yes,
put a moratorium,
yep, and they change all the time. Yeah, and they don't really give a lot of warning, because a lot of the cities, so it's kind of a weird dichotomy. So a lot of the cities really benefit from the TOT that's paid, which is a transient occupancy tax. they really benefit because that's going straight into the infrastructure of the city. But then the housing, there's an argument for housing on the other side where people are just buying these homes where there's already a housing shortage. And so people are saying like, we can't afford to live here. Like locally, we have to rent because we can't afford, to buy a home here because the investors are coming in. And so there's like, it depends what side of the debate you're on, but
Sure.
that's why these regulations are like so quick moving and they're not really advertised as much because, there's people who feel all different types of way about it. And so just staying up on it, become friends with your city planners, stay up to date on county and city websites. Those are all huge benefits to know what's going on. And having boots on the ground, obviously, if you're an out of state investor, is huge because then somebody like me or somebody else could keep an eye on things for you. But along those lines are insurance and liability. So if you can get off the ground, so if short-term rentals are allowed in your area, there's going to be requirements to getting your permitting. And a lot of those include having a certain or specific insurance and liability coverage because it's different than long-term rentals because you're having so much turnover in your home. People, they're on vacation, so they're doing things that you normally wouldn't be doing, like you're going for bike rides or you're having a little something to drink. And so you come home and you stumble on the porch. Like there's just a lot of, things that could potentially happen, So it's better to have full coverage so you're covered.
Yeah.
And short-term rental policies are pretty standard, like to the the normal homeowner policy, but they just have increased liability and dwelling coverages. And then Airbnb, they just introduced this, I think like 6 months ago or so. They've actually upped their liability in policy. So every listing and like booking that's booked with Airbnb is covered under this policy, which is great. It's not a reason to not have your own insurance, but it's a nice way to kind of extend that umbrella for the homeowner and the whoever's listing the property. And then Verbo also has a $1 million policy, which is great. So combined together, that's a good amount of coverage, but I would definitely recommend utilizing both and not just one. And then I kind of touched on this, but the last thing to touch on for regulations is taxes. So with taxes, each city has TOT, which I kind of touched on. It's the transient occupancy tax. So hotels have this tax too. It's basically anywhere you stay that's less than 30 days, you have to pay this tax. It's like what you would have to pay because you're not staying for like more than 30 days or something. So every city has their own tax rate and they all differ. So that's another thing to be up to date on, which is super fun. But usually every city's pretty good about having all the tax information. Like you can usually pay online and know what your rate is, which is good and helpful. But for instance, like SLO County has like between 10.5% to 12%. And then like the city, I think is just a flat 10%, like SLO City. So they differ even within like little areas like that. Grover's going to have a different rate than Avila and things like that.
Yeah.
So definitely good to look into there. And a big benefit too, most of the time Airbnb will remit these taxes on your behalf. So that all of this gets charged to the guest. That's not coming out of the host's pocket, but it's charged to the guest. And then typically Airbnb will remit that to you to whatever city you're Airbnb-ing in or Verboing in. And then typically to make sure that their records match up with yours, they'll send you some sort of documentation in the mail to fill out or like show a screenshot of your bookings. So it's more tedious than like anything, but it's not anything like ridiculous or hard to do. It's pretty easy to get in the groove of things.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, hopefully you folks are finding this information of value. So be sure and give the video a like for us and then feel free to subscribe. And as things progress, I mean, we can always bring Eric on for a part 2 later on. So, and leave us a comment in the, in the section there if there's specific questions that you would like us to address. We'll definitely go and review those. And of course, information will be available for you to reach out and get some more details, make an appointment, whatever you need to do if this is sounding interesting to you. So, all right, let's keep it going.
Absolutely. So how to identify short-term rental investment opportunities. So this is a big one. because your first step, like I said, is the location, finding the right location. You want to purchase a home where short-term rentals are allowed and there's some sort of process to get off the ground, because you just that's where your process starts. So if you can't do that, you're kind of dead in the water there. So once you find that, and you like go over the regulations and you see like, okay, I can do this. Typically it's like there's a permit process and then like usually a business license process. All that is pretty cut and dry, and there's usually a lot of information on the city's website. So after you go through that and you find your location that you feel comfortable with, you're going to work on identifying profitable properties. And how you do this is you make sure to run your numbers.
Mhm.
So running your numbers, the number one thing you can do is be realistic. You don't want to paint this fantastical, picture of you're going to make so much money, like $30,000 a month, when actually you're probably going to make like 7. You can still make a good amount of money. It's just you have to be realistic, so you're not like you're not paying to run a short-term rental. And I think that's where a lot of folks get caught up, because they think, oh, I can make so much money, but they don't realize all the expenses that come along with running a short-term
And then
rental.
all the work
But
if they're going to maintain it
yeah,
themselves. Yeah.
exactly, and all the work. So you have to be realistic with like your mortgage payment. You can't buy too expensive of a house, because you got to make sure the demand is there for the rental, and like your average daily rate is going to produce more than your mortgage. So then, because your mortgage and your insurance is just one part of it, but then you have supply refills, you've got cleaners, you've got, if you pay a management company, you've got management fees. So, and like your utility bill is going to go up drastically because you have people in and out and they're using lights all the time, or they're taking a lot of showers, things like that. So my husband and I, we created a calculator that we personally use for all of our investments, and it allows us to plug all these numbers in. So say you find a house, it's $600,000, and you figure out that, the average daily rate for this house is $400 a night,
Mhm.
and you can, get it rented like 60% of every month. So like, 16 or 17 days a month. So basically, you have to run the calculations of, am I going to make enough money at that occupancy rate and at that average daily rate to cover my mortgage and also the supplies that I think I'm going to be running up against? And if the answer is yes, and you push out a positive cash flow, that's great, because then it'll work. But if you don't, then you know that, okay, I need to find a home that's cheaper than that because the mortgage is too much, or I need to put more down. I need to put a higher down payment down to get the mortgage down. So there's things like that in analyzing how profitable the property is going to
Right.
be.
Very
And
important.
yeah, exactly. And so there's tools that exist out there to find these numbers. I know that sounds super overwhelming if you're like a newbie who doesn't really know how to do that. That sounds terrifying. And you're like, how do I do that? So there's tools out there that exist. There's market data websites. AirDNA is a big one. There's also investment calculators. So like my husband actually created the one that we use, because we call him the spreadsheet guy, because he's the one that's good with all that stuff. But I have access to a lot of tools that I'm absolutely willing to, share with the clients that I work with, and
So
just share
Erica,
all the things. Mhm.
somebody out there could actually hire you for a consult. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I've done it in the past where folks were like, I want to get my Airbnb off the ground, but I have no idea where to start.
Right.
They already have the home. And that's where we would step in with our consulting services, where we basically would teach somebody how to run it. So they don't have to pay a manager, but they can run it themselves and learn the processes and learn all these tools and like get access to all these calculators and things, and then learn it themselves. So then they can like use it as a template. If they wanted to buy their next investment property, they would have all the tools to do that. And then there's other folks who, obviously, we provide management services. So they're like, I have an Airbnb, it's doing great, but I don't have time for this. Then that's where they bring us in. They pay us a certain percentage fee of each booking, to take that on for them, and then they can be hands off. And then we've also had folks like utilize us as consulting, where we like stay on with them for like each process, or we like teach them multiple sides of investing, whether it's long-term rental investing, short-term rental, mid-term, because all of them differ. And so there's kind of different ways. It's honestly like a case by case basis that
You
folks
can
could
hold, you
use.
can definitely hold somebody's hand get them, you
Absolutely.
know, get them
Yeah.
figuring out that it's going to work for them. The numbers make sense. This is how you
Yes.
do it. They can maybe try it on their own, or maybe that not for
Hmm.
them, and then they can go back to you. But
Right.
you're definitely available to help them with the process on a case
Absolutely.
by
Yeah. Cause
case.
then there's like the coaching side of things where if somebody's trying to learn how to analyze properties and they don't have a property, we can still, yeah, provide a coaching service where we go alongside them and show them how we identify properties, how we run these numbers and things like that. And so that way they have it from start to finish as opposed to already starting with an Airbnb because that's or a home. If you start with a home, that's half the battle. Getting it up and running is like, within its own challenge, but finding a home and running those properties can be, we call it analysis paralysis because you just start spinning your wheels and you're like, I don't know if it's going to work. But
Mhm.
if you work with somebody who's done it so many times and they're comfortable, they can really walk you through it. And so we offer that as well. And that way people feel empowered to make their own
That
decisions and run their
decision.
own numbers and things.
And then also someone can also reach out to you that's interested in doing this and has the financial capability, right? But just
Right.
doesn't know where to maybe do this. So
Right.
can reach out and have you help in that manner too. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
How short-term rentals build personal wealth. So short-term rentals are great because you are combining the short-term rental income with the long-term wealth through building equity and getting appreciation in your property. And so obviously long-term rentals can do this too. They just can't do it as quickly and you can't scale as fast. With short-term rentals, the income you're bringing in is 3 to 4 times the amount of your long-term rental. So you're getting positive cash flow in your pocket that you can save and build capital to purchase your next short-term rental or your next investment. And then you're also building that equity that you can either pull a HELOC on or like pull out equity on something and then use that for your next investment as well. So you're kind of
Wow.
getting it on both sides.
Right.
And when they amass together, it really broadens your scope of investing and what you can be involved in. And if you want to do another short-term rental or maybe an apartment syndication, or if you want to diversify your portfolio, like there's so many different options. And that's what we were able to do. Like we used all of our long-term rental, like not equity, but like the cash flow we were building with that and like the capital we were able to build up. And we did that in a short-term rental. And we were just able to scale so much quicker on the short-term rental side of things using that money because like $400 a door versus $4,000 a door a month is insane.
Yeah. And
So like,
covering the
yeah,
cost and then that
right.
positive. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that really kind of like gives you so much more purchasing power for getting your next investment. So they
And you
definitely
have
help with that.
appreciation and you're still getting
Exactly.
appreciation on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
great.
yeah, and a lot of like you taking your cash flow split, yeah, you're not pulling from anything out of your house. It's just a dual benefit for short-term rentals, which are great. And so that stream of income, it could be leveraged. I kind of went over this like second point already,
Okay.
but
Mhm.
it can be leveraged into anything, whether you wanted to do, a long-term rental where you're like, okay, this is cool, but I just feel like I need to kind of switch things up or I need to diversify, whatever. I haven't done that because I've seen the power of short-term rentals. So we're full on short-term rental
Yeah,
right
that's where
now.
you're at. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really cool because short-term rentals, you can use the vacation or second home loan, which only requires you to put 10% down as opposed to the traditional 20%.
Mhm.
And there's different lending requirements for that. Like if you have to be a certain amount of miles away, like from where your primary residence is, but an investor-friendly lender would be able to help anybody with that,
Okay.
figure that out. And I've got plenty of those on speed dial. So I
I
always
bet.
tell people reach out to me, if you need a lender who was like kind of talks your language with the short-term rental market and if you're
Sure.
looking to invest and stuff.
Yeah, that's key
So
to have the right people in place
for
to
sure.
help everybody make this as smooth as possible. So it sounds like you've
Hmm.
got that pretty pinned down. So yeah,
Right.
that's a no-brainer right there. Oh,
So for my agent friends out there, if you're on
woo!
here, yeah, exactly. If you're a real estate agent, a lot of this information is super handy when you're working with clients. I know there's a couple agents in our area that have asked me several times, like, Are you available? Like, do you want to partner? Do you want to like be available to talk to this client because they want to do short-term rental and I have no idea about it. And so it's created these really cool partnerships with other agents. Um, and obviously we're all in the business of helping our clients. So if we can come together as a team and as a partnership to better serve this individual, getting their short-term rental to make extra income, things like that, like I'm all about it. And it's been really cool to connect with some folks to accomplish that. And so I thought putting this slide in here would be beneficial on like things to focus on when you're working with your short-term rental investor clients, to really understand like those needs and goals that they have. I would say that's more important than anything. So if you have a client, a buyer who's looking for a short-term rental or they're looking for a home, like talking if they want to do a short-term rental, a mid-term rental, a long-term rental, like understanding if they're trying to be hands off, they're trying to be active within their rental, like what are their goals? Are they trying to make just a bunch of money and they don't care how they do it? Or are they trying to like have somewhere to go half of the year and then
Right,
rent it out the rest? Like what are they trying to accomplish with this
right.
home? And then for sellers, if you're selling and you're like, okay, are you trying to sell this as an active short-term rental? Because I've seen that a lot of times
Mhm.
where folks have an active short-term rental, but they're just like, I can't do it anymore. I'm moving out of state. I don't want to have this here. And so a lot of times it's beneficial to market it as a short-term rental if it's been a short-term rental. But then other times, sellers are just like, I don't care, just market it however. And so there's just been a lot of different conversations as I've gotten deeper into this like integration of short-term rentals and the agent side of things. And so I would just say understanding whatever your investors' needs are number one, and whatever their goals are, because it'll just creates an open line of communication.
Mhm.
And that's not anything different than what real estate agents do already. Like we already know that,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
already having chats about like, well, why do you want to be in this area? Why do you want 3 bedrooms? Like we already are in the business of doing that.
Mhm.
And so this is just adding that into the questions we already ask them.
Right,
And
and a lot
then
of our clients are looking for second homes or,
right.
future retirement, so they're like, "We're
Hmm.
5 years off, but we wanna buy now." So that particular client might wanna know, is this an opportunity where they can
Hmm.
make some income as the house sits here, or should they just put a long-term renter person in there? Just
Exactly.
depending. So, yeah, I mean, it's things to take a look at because obviously we saw during COVID, through everything when that happened, how the renters do have rights too, and then you have to
Hmm.
prepare for those types of things that
Yeah.
can throw you a curveball and you're
Right.
prepared for that. So,
Exactly.
mhm,
Yeah, and that's huge because, as we've talked already in this conversation is short-term rental, you don't have to give tenants notice. So if that's like, a benefit for your buyer or your seller, or like, yeah, like, there's different ways on how people can make money and what they're going to do with it. And so it's just like coming out of COVID, there's so many different options now and having those conversations, I think will just really benefit folks. And then kind of same on the same line with educating clients on those short-term rental regulations. If they're asking, hey, like, I want to buy a house in Oceana or Grover Beach, like here on the Central Coast. And you're like, that's cool, that's great. But Oceana is more friendly, but Grover Beach, they only have a certain amount of permits available a
yep,
year and they're already capped. So like knowing that information,
yeah,
you can better like inform their goals
yeah,
because and like have, realistic expectations
right,
and things like that. So that part's really important. And then also the finding properties and analyzing investment potential, like just either like pointing them in the direction of, hey, like these are things you need to consider.
mhm,
Make sure your mortgage isn't astronomically high because it's going to be harder for you to make money. Like just basic things. Like not everybody has to be an expert, but it just helps inform those conversations so they can make a better decision, or they can
absolutely,
find people, like myself or other people that they may have, know in the short-term rental space and help them make those decisions or like, hold their hand while they figure it out if they're a
yeah,
new investor
yeah.
and things like that.
And that's the beautiful thing. You're like, this is your specialty. So that's a nice thing to be able to bring you in and we can take care of our client the way we want to and really have
Mhm,
a pro on our side. So this is a great compliment to our businesses, to have
mhm.
someone available like you. So
For
that
sure.
this is for all agents out there. So if that's something
Yeah.
you need help with, then here's Erica for you.
Totally.
All right, so
Totally.
let's go to here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to show like what short-term rentals can help you accomplish, I wanted to share what they helped me accomplish. So I was able to quit my full-time job last June. So I to be a
Woo!
full-time agent. Yeah. So I'm
Yes.
I'm almost on my 1 year anniversary of being a full-time entrepreneur, which is very
At 30
exciting.
years old, I
At
love
30 years
it.
old, I know it's
That's
very exciting.
awesome.
I'm very grateful. I'm like number one fan short-term rentals because of this. And
Yeah,
like,
and the thing is, I think a lot of this is also um following someone that is actually doing it. That's the
mhm,
thing. You're not just saying it. You're not, just out there, putting it on whatever. You
yeah.
are really, walking the talk, talking the walk, whatever. So it's like you are doing it. So that's what I love about this too. And very versed to, opportunities and getting creative, but then you also know how to do it,
Mhm.
where to do it out.
Yeah,
That's another big
for
thing
sure.
is, really, if this is something you're going to do, get someone that's doing it today, and knows what's
Mhm.
going on, boots in the ground right now, because
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
critical. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just in the business of like doing for others what was done for me and extending that helping hand because especially as a woman in real estate, there's just other certain things that we kind of have to like work a little harder for sometimes. And so I would love to be a resource to anybody who's out there, just looking for opportunities um to enter the investing space in general because that's what was done for me. I just reached out to folks and I said, "Hey, can I take you out for a cup of coffee and pick your brain?" And so like I never turned down a cup of coffee. I'm always like, "Yeah, let's go have a
Yeah.
chat." Like, let's talk about short-term rentals, let's talk about
Yeah.
long-term rentals. Let's talk about like burr investing, which is like a totally another topic, but
Everything. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just like extending that helping hand because that's what was done for me and like showing people that it can be done, starting with like $45,000 because that's what my husband and I started with. And then we were able to scale it to like, I think our portfolio valuation's like 4.5 million, which was in like a couple years, which is pretty good for two 20-something-year-olds who had like no idea what they were doing to start. So that's like a big, feather in our cap. And I would
Yeah.
love to help somebody else get
Yeah, well,
that.
you had a vision. You had a vision of not
Mhm.
wanting to, be working a 9 to 5 forever. Or, but
Yeah,
then I think this is also an opportunity for people that are working hard and are making good money and don't want to be
for
doing that
sure.
forever, too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's such
Absolutely.
opportunity. So I'm excited about this all, and just like you're saying, having that cup of coffee. I mean, that's how we kind of met. We just kind of
Mhm.
wanted to, learn from each other. And so this is how it evolves. And networking and getting out there and getting around the right people. And I wanted to bring this out to everybody out there that we can and share it with them. We're on the Central Coast, but obviously you've got properties elsewhere, other states and in
Absolutely.
California. So yeah, what else do you got here that we want to know about?
Yeah, for sure. So just the power of investing, particularly in short-term rentals. So was able to quit my job. It's we were able to start our business, my husband and I, we took our knowledge that we learned from buying and operating our own short-term rentals and then created our short-term rental property management where we could help other people and created a business around that. And we just did that. Or July of 2022 is our anniversary. So we're coming up on a 1 year of that as well and we went from 0 to like I think we're at like 10 clients now, which is pretty big for 1 year. Like that's a
Yeah,
lot of growth and like a lot of scaling and a lot of it is coming from referrals, which is like super awesome, very grateful. Like we
yeah,
just feel so honored that people trust us and trust our experience and like our expertise and stuff. And it's really cool that running your own business like gives you such empowerment. And so like I owe it all to short-term rentals, big short-term rental hype gal over here.
yeah,
But yeah, it also helped me like leverage my networks. So for finding off market deals for like my other investment opportunities or connecting my investor friends with people with off market deals. So like
Right.
just leveraging all those partnerships and things like that. And then it honestly helped me create the optimal work-life balance, which is really just living my life and not working for somebody else, but also making money along the way and helping other people along the way. Like that's been a huge, opportunity, and like super grateful for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, plenty of new opportunities. The consulting we talked about, the
Yep.
coaching, specific partnerships with agents, like working together to help a client,
Yep.
and just finding new management clients through it all and as well. So lots of different ways to partner. I love getting creative with it and just helping people, and it's been super fun. And like anything in real estate is always a good time. It's
Yeah.
like the easiest sell to be in real estate. It's so much fun. Just to kind of wrap things up, short-term rentals are a great way to build short-term and long-term wealth. So if you're looking into getting into investing, there's a ton of ways that short-term rentals can benefit you. So using Airbnb and Vrbo can offset your income. You can use the expenses as write-offs for the income you're making. It's a great way to like invest in your own backyard. So if your family has a house that you already own, and you look and see if it's in an area that you can do short-term rentals, then you're in a great space to have a short-term rental where you live and rent it out, and then also have a little staycation spot.
Mhm.
The flexibility to use it as you please. And then just to really hammer it in is the regulations. You've definitely got to check
Yeah.
your regulations before you buy a home, to Airbnb it or Vrbo it. Make sure when you run your numbers, you're realistic.
Yeah.
And then also just like keep up to date on those changing short-term rental regulations. And like by knowing those and by keeping, these basic steps in mind, you can, if you're an agent, you can better help clients if they're like specifically searching for a specific investment property. And you can also feel confident as an agent to buy your own short-term rental because you know the ins and outs. You can
Heck
buy your own
yeah,
investment.
that's where we're going. We're
Yeah.
doing something. So, you guys, I know this is amazing information. So be sure and give the video a like. It really helps other people just like you find the information. Let's have Erica help people out there that need this, because this could be life changing. Change your
Mhm.
life. Um,
Absolutely.
so I just highly encourage you to leave us a comment. Let us know what we can do for you. Erica lives on the Central Coast, but she's available, can do this kind of analytical thing anywhere,
Mhm.
right? As far as you're
Yeah,
comfortable.
I had a consulting client in like College Station, Texas. I've done
Yeah,
it in Tennessee. Like I've done it all over, and the principles and like your systems and procedures are what matters most. And once you have those honed in, you can plug them into any market, just as long as you have a basic understanding of what you're doing, and using that as a template for everybody who's got different dreams and goals and want, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, midterm rentals, any of that. It's
yeah.
definitely applicable, any
So leave,
market.
yeah, so leave us a comment, like I said, but the only way that we can really help you out here is you've got to reach out. You got to give us a call, text, email, day, evening,
Yes.
weekends. It does not matter. Contact information will be in the description for you. We're just obviously she's 30 years old. She's going to be around for a while, so she can
Let's
take care of
hope.
the properties for you, and then make sure they're going to go down the generations.
Yes,
I'm
for
a little bit
sure.
farther ahead, but I'm excited to, get some more information for myself, for my kids, for my family, for my clients. That we, right now in this market, you're just trying to be really creative to make your money go farther, than putting it perhaps in the stocks or, whatever else.
Mhm.
So I think this is just such valuable information. I hope you did too. So be sure to leave us a comment. Erica, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And
Thank
she's
you.
just a phone call away, folks. So be sure to
Yes.
reach out. So again, the only way that we can help you out is you got to reach out to us. So until the next video, we'll catch you guys later. Bye.